Yay! Welcome, Christine!
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I'm so happy to have you. And I also just thought about this. Think about how many things needed to happen for today to happen.
I know.
So not just in terms of life and traffic and, but like, you and I only met about, I don't know, a week ago or something?
Yes, yeah. In a sauna.
In a sauna, where all the best things happen, right? And so I just thought about it just before, when you were on your way here, I was think about how many times in your life, if you look at the big globe and you see you and you see me, right? We've never met before.
No.
We're kind of similar age.
Yeah.
So for the sort of 40-year plus,
Yeah.
we've both been like little dots on a big chessboard, going here, when I said no to stuff and you said yes and you said no. And at some point, it's like, there they are.
Yeah.
And again, our meeting was in a sauna. Could have been anywhere else, but there it was. So anyway, dearest listeners, very warm welcome to the gorgeous Christine. I obviously met you before I met your CV, but for listeners out there that are like, okay, Josie, Christine is gorgeous, but now why is she sitting in your sofa today? I am going to read out your bio, and I would love you to just receive it. And also I was thinking about today because it's so special. Like, I'm so honored to have you here, and I'm hoping that today's conversation will be, another way to celebrate your life story and your life's journey so far, which is something I know we both feel that, should be encouraged more in society.
Yes, absolutely.
So without further ado, dear listeners, this is who Christine is on paper, and then we'll dive a little bit deeper. So you are the founder of Full Harvest AI, the B2B agentic solution for the food supply chain. Over the past decade, you have raised $50 million in venture capital and scaled the company to over $100 million in cumulative revenue, helping reduce on-farm food waste at a meaningful scale. You've recently transitioned to the board after 10 years as a CEO to pursue your next passion of helping women scale their businesses and health. Yay! You've been an entrepreneur since the age of 17, where you first started a music education non-profit called Musical Empowerment, which is still growing nationally almost 25 years later. You began your career at Maersk and Procter Gamble, building a foundation in global operations and marketing. Later, you helped scale Organic Avenue, an organic food and beverage startup, where you learned about the inefficiencies in the food system that ultimately led to the founding of Full Harvest. You earned your BMA from the Wharton School and your undergraduate degree from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And some of your accolades include being recognized as an Inc. Top 100 female founder, EY Entrepreneur of the Year finalist, and WEF Tech Pioneer. And then if that wasn't enough, personally, you also grew up as a competitive pianist and ballerina. You adore your cavapoo, and you're currently on a sabbatical traveling the world to add to your 60+ passport stamps. And I guess it's during this big travel that that takes us up to where you are today.
Yeah.
So welcome, Christine.
Thank you.
Amazing to have you. So I wanted to do what I always do. I always ask people to go back in time, just so we can understand a little bit about where you're from, and what kind of environment you grew up in. So if you want to share, maybe what kind of belief systems, what was really valued in your home. Yeah?
Yeah, so I grew up in a town called Bradenton, Florida. It's near Tampa. I think now I appreciate it more, but at the time it was a pretty small town. It's grown a lot. Very diverse, half retirees, some immigrants because Tropicana Orange Juice is there, Nick Bollettieri Tennis Academy, so people globally come there to learn tennis, and then the beach. And my parents, still together, 45 years, they raised us very conservatively in the church, and my dad, who's a lawyer, was always very invested in service. So he was, as a a side thing. President of the Boys and Girls Club, president of Kiwanis, always grew up volunteering with him and giving back. So that was a very big thing that I grew up with. And my mother, I don't think I realized how unique of a situation it was until I read Lean In. And I kind of laughed like, wait, women have to be told this stuff? Because I didn't realize, I'm like, maybe that's why people have always been like, you know, why is Christine, you know, so outspoken and, you know, doesn't ask for permission for things. But I grew up with a mother who was a CEO and founded a company since I was young that I helped intern and work for her during the summers as she built it. So I got to see it firsthand. She's been doing that almost 40 years now. And she was the breadwinner, so she paid for most things growing up. And so I just never really understood how unique that was. And so I think that, you know, I once heard one of the presidents of one of the big women-only universities in the US speak, and there was some crazy stat where she said, you know, only 2% of women in the US go to all women's colleges, or boarding schools, but 50% or more of the women in the United States that are on public boards or government positions went to those schools. And she says it's because when they're young, when they find their voice, they never lose it as a woman. And I feel very fortunate because I think inadvertently that's sort of what happened with having my mom as a CEO. I think I learned to have a voice, and I just never really lost it, you know, from that.
And thank God for that.
Yeah, so I really ended up being sort of a perfect combination of my dad's impact on the world and then my mom's sort of, you know, drive. And I always realized that, or thought, you know, well, if my mom's a CEO, I have to be as successful as her or more and really do something in the world. So that was sort of the foundation of the environment I grew up in.
Amazing. And let's take you into the ballet and piano world, because obviously that's something we shared, which we also found out in the sauna.
Yes, did not know.
Yes, I know. So how did you, was that something, you know, did your parents enroll you in those kind of classes, or was it something that you know, were sort of pursuing yourself? Like, how did that come about?
So separately, I have an identical twin, which I think is also very unique.
Okay, I'm just gonna have to like pause for a second. You don't know this about me. I am fascinated by twins, and it's so wild because you're like just the second twin that I had on like a few weeks ago as well. Okay, no.
So I think that also had a big thing in my growing up because I was just talking to somebody about this yesterday. I mean, one, it's helps you become very competitive, especially when it's the same gender. That's why you see the Williams sisters, the West twins, you know, they're all very successful because I think you have a built-in competition. So we were very competitive, so that helped me in a lot of ways. But they've done studies on this now, and I've watched documentaries, and basically twins that are separated at birth actually end up much more exactly alike when they meet later in life. Like they pursued the same jobs and, you know, lifestyles, and then when they live together because of competition. And so one of the things that happened when we were younger is because we didn't want to be so competitive on everything, my sister found out that, you know, she liked art, and my grandmother was a music teacher, so I started taking lessons of piano with her when I was starting 5 years old. And separately, I just loved to dance. You know, we started when we were young, and then I kind of kept pursuing it. My sister kind of bowed out, and so we kind of decided, okay, art is her thing, and piano and dance are my thing. She did piano for a bit, but to this day, you know, I was the one that became very competitive in those things, and she's now a phenomenal architect and has paintings all over our house. And what's funny is I still draw stick figures because she just would get, you know, kind of protective, just like I would, of, you know, you're not allowed to take art classes. So who knows, maybe deep down I'm a phenomenal artist, but I just never pursued that.
So true, but also you know what I really love about this is that two things. First of all, you're talking about competition as something like from the perspective of something really positive, which of course it absolutely can be, right?
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah.
And secondly, I also love that the way that you guys sort of like decided to collaborate. It's
Yeah.
like, well, we're on the same team.
Yeah.
Let's work as a team, right? So this is your strength. That's gonna be your arena.
Yeah.
Don't step over the line,
exactly,
right? Like
exactly,
it's, you know,
yeah.
which most of the time as a human being, I don't think we really fully grasp that until we start having intimate relationships, and then even that can be really hard, right?
Yeah.
You know, so the fact that at such a young age, the two of you were like,
Yeah.
and I'm sure it had its ups and downs, right?
Yeah,
But that you were like, okay,
yeah.
you look after that. Oh, it's so interesting.
Yeah. But it's manifested it for myself where because I didn't do art, I still love art. So I love going to modern art museums, and I'm passionate about art. And you know, she's been surprised with, how do you know so much about art? I'm like, I think because we're identical twins, that I still love art. I just am not, you know, actually doing the art myself. So
Absolutely amazing. And then when did the whole Maersk thing happen?
yes.
And how?
Yeah. So funny story. You know, life is chutes and ladders, and trying things and realizing what you know, you're good at, what you like. And funny enough, you know, when you're young, you think you're going to be one thing. I wanted to be a teacher, and then, and this will all come full circle, but then I also loved helping people, so I thought I was going to be a doctor. So I started college, pre-med. So I went halfway through college being pre-med, and then I realized that I could not dissect an animal. So I had to actually leave the lab, and that was sort of the moment in the bathroom where I was like, okay, I can't do this, and I just spent half of my college taking the hardest classes. But you know, I went to a school that purposely had good, you know, other schools. They have phenomenal UNC Chapel Hill, so it's a phenomenal business school. So it was like, okay, I guess my other interest is since a young age. My parents really encouraged traveling. I studied abroad in Japan when I was 15 years old. I learned Japanese, and so I was like, my other passion is international business. So I want to see if I'm interested in that. And so switched to business school. And funny enough, Maersk came to the college campus for their program, which unfortunately they've now cut, but was one of the top Fortune 100 global management training programs. Where, I mean, it sounded like my dream. I wasn't super passionate about supply chain at the time, but they spent like $100,000 on each person. Where it was a 2-year training program. You travel around different cities, learning the company, and then taking classes at night. And if you passed the 2-year program, you would get to go anywhere in the world for 2 years. And they invested in language classes, and for me, it sounded way more interesting than investment banking or consulting that my friends were going into. I've never really done things for money. I've always taken the path less traveled. And everyone thought I was crazy, like, why aren't you going into investment banking or consulting? But it was just what called me. And so for 5 years, I went through their management training program. I was in South Africa for 2 years, which was some of the best times of my life. I have such a special place in my heart for Cape Town, South Africa. I'm going back after 10 years later this year. I'm very excited. But yeah, that's what really got me into the, you know, business operations, marketing, strategy world. And so, I'm happy to answer questions on that, but it was just kind of random.
No, I love it. And you know what I also love is, like, again, I always like to just relate it back to what is relatable to me, right?
Yeah.
And I'm always like, because listening to your story, it's this thing of like, it feels to me as if you've always, whatever opportunities came into your spheres, you've gone, is this aligned with me? Even when you were super young and you might not have been really like conscious about what it was and how your method.
Yeah.
But that thing of, we can look at, you know, lots of other people could have been in your position, and for whatever reasons, limiting belief systems, you know, whatever was going on in their life, they could have not even seen the opportunity when it was there.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was just going to say, I realized that kind of theme in my life. The biggest risks I've taken were because I knew in my gut. I couldn't explain it. Some of them were insane, and I could, you know, tell you some of those biggest decisions, but it's just, I knew. And I think sometimes I'm not saying I'm perfect at listening to my intuition or gut all the time, but this is when it was like screaming at me. And I do wonder sometimes if other people can tune into that more if they wanted to. But what's kind of taking one step back is that this sounds crazy, but my whole teenage, middle school, high school years, my mother was trying to beg me to take over her business later in life in finance. And I'll never forget, I was 13, and I said to her, I know this sounds crazy and maybe arrogant, I don't know if everybody feels like this, but I can't take over your business because I know that I'm supposed to start a company to help save the world. And
that's like goosebumps.
And here, like, I just remember this so viscerally, and I'm like, at the time, I just was like, is this really what everybody feels like? Am I being arrogant? Why do I feel this way in my bones? And I didn't know what that meant, but I just knew I had some sort of calling. And I think, we'll get into it a bit more, but since I was 13, I was always wondering and looking for that. And so, again, Chutes and Ladders, it's like, I did go the pre-med route because, at that time I thought, I wanted to be a doctor, but then it just didn't feel like it was the right path. And then, I was like, well, always searching and wondering what this idea was. And part of the reason I also went to Maersk is I learned that they were one of the top companies to train CEOs. Like a lot of big Fortune 100 companies got their, some of their CEOs from top business schools, and the top business schools hired a lot of Maersk trainees, accepted them. And so I was like, well, until I know what the idea is, I should train to become a good CEO. And so that's why I sort of went that path. And if it worked out to be a company CEO instead of my own CEO, then at least I'm on that path as well. But after working at Maersk and then at business school, at an internship at Procter Gamble, that summer at Procter Gamble, a phenomenal company, but that was where I was like line in the sand. I am not a big company person. This is everything against my entrepreneurial, personality. And I knew that was the last time I was ever going to work for a big company. And then became full on of, okay, I need to figure out what this idea is. And I'm going to regret it if I don't fully focus this. So I was one of the few people from Wharton Business School that graduated saying I was going to start a company instead of taking a big job. No plan, no, probably way less savings than most people, but I just knew it was now or never. So that kind of was the beginning of like the whole full harvest journey after business school. So yeah.
Absolutely love that. And again, for listeners out there, I just think, like the way that you since such a young age, and I know you said 13 when you had this specific experience with your mother, and the courage it must have taken to say that, because obviously you knew it was your mom's dream, her hope, her please do this thing. And at 13 to have that such a strong, to feel a sense of purpose that is so beyond yourself. And therefore you've got, I think, that really helps to have that courage to say what you got to say, right? Because and again, it's similar to me. Because it was never, like I always say later in life, I guess I had a better way of articulating it when I did personally when I was 13 or 10 or 9. But I'm always like, it's so much bigger than me.
It is.
And when you know in your gut that is so much bigger than you, whatever it is, that sense of destiny that you are a part of, again, it's a collaboration. And the way that you said, I'm here to create a company that will save humanity, that will save the world, right? You didn't say, I'm here to one woman handedly. Right? Which I think is so much of what a lot of people can fall into, right? And then it's so overwhelming. But that thing that since such a young age, such a young little you.
And I think to kind of tie it all together, is, cliche as this may be, I was really inspired by Steve Jobs' commencement speech around, connecting the dots later in life.
Oh my God, I used that in my article.
I know, but truly, this is what I would say is that when I look at the biggest, they call it crucible moments in your life, those were the moments where 1, it was the road less traveled, 2, I had the biggest gut intuition, and 3, I didn't know why, but I followed it. Every single one of those. 1 was, switching to business. one was choosing to go to Maersk, one was choosing to go to South Africa. That was very controversial. My family was not happy because I could have gone to Japan or Italy, more safe options. One of them was to, move. I was in New York working at a food startup after business school, for another startup, packed up all my stuff and moved everything down to Florida to try to start a business then. And no joke, after driving my stuff in the ice and snow from New York to Florida, 3 weeks later got a phone call about helping scale a food startup in New York. And it was insane. And I was like, could you not have asked me 4 weeks ago, But I said, Mom, Dad, I don't know why, but my gut is telling me, even though this is insane, I have to go. And that was Organic Avenue. So I packed a suitcase, left all my stuff in Florida, and went back to New York for another year and a half. And all of those moments, and business school, people question business school and yada yada. Now, when I look at what got me to the idea for Full Harvest, I had to work at Organic Avenue. It was how I found out the problem. I had to work at Maersk, even though it wasn't like, the number one thing I was looking for was working for supply chain logistics. All of those things, international experience, operations, marketing at P&G, was the perfect stepping stones to get me to be able to not only come up with the idea for Full Harvest, but be able to uniquely solve the problem and scale it. And so it was always hindsight, but the point is that, you really critically should just have faith and trust and listen to your gut, because you just don't know, and you won't know until afterwards. And sometimes you'll be 10, 20, 30 years older, but it is leading you down the right path. So
no, 100%, and so well put. And just to add to that, as
Yeah.
we like to add to each other's
Yeah,
sentences,
yeah.
is also this thing of like, and you couldn't have known any earlier because you didn't, and you weren't the person you needed to become. Not just from the the business perspective, the marketing, the all of the embodied lived experience, but also you hadn't yet fully created the full motivation,
Yeah.
right? So that inner sense where you go like, I can no longer not do this thing.
Exactly.
And I think this is, it's always through, sadly, but that's the human experience, it's through contrasting experiences in life as well, right? Like you see things in life, and when you've seen things enough, that it starts to move you to the point where you go, I've packed up my whole bag, like you said, I can't remember how many hours you drove down in the snow, your whole life's packed up in that car, only to get the phone call, and the first thing you go is like, yeah, it's completely irrational, I'm coming back.
Exactly.
Like that's, I'm getting goosebumps
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
And I'm sitting here personally because I'm like, this is why you're here, Christine.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, and I think to what you're saying is like, it's also going through the chutes and ladders of finding out what you don't want, like finding out not being a doctor is not my path right now, at least, or maybe forever. Just with even previous business ideas I had, they didn't work out. Getting these rejection, is a way of also learning what's not meant for you, and you have to like fire fast and move on, because it's keeping you from what is meant for you.
100%, and that just goes, I don't need to highlight that, but for listeners out there, because sometimes I think I always worry that listeners can, they meet you and it's like, well, it's all great Christine living, like from the gut, but then it's there, it can feel unrelatable at times.
Yeah.
And it's just that thing of like, take it down to the very micro detail of your everyday life, right? So you get a juice, you don't like it. Maybe you don't need to drink it. Let it go. You have an interaction with someone, doesn't matter if it's a personal friend, it's someone else's friend, whoever it is, if you are not in a good spot and you have the capacity, the ability to release that person, you release that person. You don't even second guess it.
100%.
Done.
100%.
Right?
And this is not to say I'm hearing myself and it makes it sound like I have it all figured out or I knew these things and it all worked out perfectly. I ran a Full Harvest for 10 years, and I've been recently reminded in hindsight and listening to speakers and things, I'm like, man, there were so many times I self-abandoned and so much pain and agony that went into that self-abandonment, and it makes me like devastated for myself to be like, oh, Christine, why did you do this to yourself? And I think so, you know, I've even made a million mistakes with, you know, even if I did at times make the right one for bigger things, day to day, I did not listen to myself or put myself first, and fire fast, you know, literally and figuratively. And let me tell you, it wears you down over time, and it's a very, very, very painful thing. And, you know, I've been going through burnout lately, and I think a lot of it has to do with not listening to myself. And so I think it's always a good reminder in all situations, that, you know, to be a bit ruthless about protecting your peace, and just having faith. I think that's the thing. I lost the faith of it will, even if I jump off this cliff and I don't have the answers, the number one thing is that if you follow what you know is in your bones right and best for you and your health, it will work out. And actually better, you just have to take that leap of faith, and that's what people are scared of, and that's what I was scared of. So I just tried to control it, or I didn't trust it. And, you know, my favorite phrase now, again, of course, I only learned it in the last year, is do not let short-term discomfort cause long-term dysfunction. And it's so true. Anything you don't want to deal with because of discomfort, because we're human and we don't like discomfort, or we have fear, will always eventually happen. That's just life. And in fact, it'll actually get worse over time, and you'll have wasted all of that time in dysfunction. So you just have to rip the Band-Aid and just say, if this is not working, just know that it will be uncomfortable at some point eventually. So just get it over with and give yourself all that time back and your life back, because we deserve to be happy and at peace and joyful.
100%.
So that's been a very big lesson for me over the last year or so.
Oh my god, my heart reaches out to you, and I can so relate. And I think also it's also this thing of like, I had something so wonderful to add to that, and now I got paused. Yes, you know, these are really, really, really big things that you're sharing, because, you know, it's the exhaustion, it's also the loneliness, because it's a lonely place when, again, people can look at you from the outside and go, wow. And
after the fact.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they didn't during the process.
No, of course not, right? And then inside, it's like, oh, no one else really, you know, like, I'm the only one who's here when my eyes are closed and no one else is watching. I'm the only one with me at 2 a.m. in the morning when I'm waking up, because I haven't, you know, I'm worried about this thing, I haven't figured out this thing, I feel alone, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
The human being experience. And that thing of like, oh, this is what I wanted to say. Our greatest strength will also always be our greatest challenge. And once that challenge has not been, it's not been conquered, but it's been embodied, right? So, you know, it's that thing of like, you have always had a natural tendency, ability, let's call it an ability, to look for the beauty, the opportunity, the positivity. I will make this work, right? And I'm exactly the same. And it's that thing of like, I'm going to give you really...
This is like therapy right now, realize.
Bless you. Well, I'll give you the most basic example, right? Because
but it is your weakness too. Then you always believe the best in people.
Right,
and
you
think
do.
It's going to change.
You do, right?
Yeah.
And then
that's what's been happening.
And then you also feel it, because then you feel like a personal failure if you can't make it work.
100%.
And so I'm just taking the micro and turning it into the macro and turning it into the micro, right?
Yeah.
Give you really basic example. It's not even about, it's not about other people.
Yeah.
It's not about career.
Yeah.
Really basic example, because I love a basic. So, I don't know if you've ever done this. Have you ever bought a pair of shoes and you're in the shop and you're like, maybe they weren't quite the shoes you wanted, but they're a bit cheaper, or somehow there's a pair of shoes, you know, maybe when you were really young. I've done this, and I did it a lot of times. And I was like, it's fine. I'll just put an insole in. I'll glue some soles underneath. I will spray paint.
100%.
And you know, and again, we are the creative. We'll make it work, right?
Yes.
And then you wear the shoes out, and all of a sudden it's raining, because you forgot you live in England where it always rains, and it rains, and the spray paint starts to like dribble down the street as you're walking. You have blisters. Your shoes, actually you bought the boots, but actually they weren't waterproof, you know. And then when you go home, you're like, it's fine. I will make it work.
Yeah.
So then your whole life becomes this project of I will make it work, right?
100%.
And so I know it's a really basic example, but that thing of like, maybe I don't need to hang out with the person where I will make it work, or the project where I'm pushing something uphill. There's a huge difference between being disciplined and sticking to something that you deeply believe in. It's deeply aligned with your values. And yes, of course, there's challenges and difficulties because, hey, welcome to life. But the opposite, where you are sticking, you're not glued to something.
Yeah.
That is just pushing you down.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So knowing when to leave, knowing when to stop.
And I have an example of this with Even Full Harvest, which I don't talk about a lot, but I went 6 to 9 months in the wrong direction first, and I had very little savings. So I basically almost went broke trying the wrong thing, and I didn't pivot fast enough. But the story I was telling myself was, oh, everybody says starting a company or being a founder is hard, so it's supposed to be hard. It's really painful. It's not working, but you're just supposed to keep going. But then when I finally had sort of a moment of where I was extremely depressed, I went on a trip with my family. I was like, truly, it was like a crucible moment where I was like, okay, I've got a few months of runway left, and then I don't have money anymore. I know in my bones that I'm on to, I kind of discovered this food waste problem. And so the first idea was around solving food waste, but in a different way. And I'm like, I don't get it. My whole life since I was a teenager, I've known I was going to start something. I figured out this food waste problem. I got goosebumps and knew that this was the thing I was meant to come and do. I'm trying. I know it's not supposed to be easy. I'm pushing. Why is this not working? And I'm running out of money. And so I hit such a wall and became so depressed because I was like, what am I missing? And I took a week with my family and I said, I am not getting back on that plane to San Francisco until I know what I'm doing. I can't half do anything anymore. It's just so exhausting. I'm either going to be fully in on this idea for a little bit longer till I run out of money. I'm going to pivot to something that's been kind of creeping up in my head of like something I'm scared of, but I think is actually what's really needed, or I'm going to go get a job. And I'll never forget, it's like crazy to think about, but we had a one-day layover with my family. We were in France, in Oslo, and they had to leave, but I stayed for 24 hours because I had friends there. And it was my mom and my dad and me on a wall in front of the Nobel Peace Prize Museum in Oslo. And I was like, I can't leave tomorrow. I don't know what I'm doing. And I told him, I have this other idea where it's using technology to connect, customers and businesses, but I don't know anything about tech. I'm non-technical. I have no idea what I'm doing. I know tangible goods. I know CPG. I know products. And my dad said, Christine, you've always been a connector your whole life. That's your gift. You always bring people together. You've traveled the world and lived places and brought people together. Your nonprofit is a problem and a solution and connecting it. Just view this, idea as connecting and doing what you do best, buyers and suppliers, and hire the people to build the technology. And it was him saying that just, I was like, okay, I can do this if I think about it that way. And so I spent that day going to the Nobel Peace Prize Museum. I sat there journaling, and that was the day I came up with the name Full Harvest, which was 11 years ago, almost to the day, July 28th. And I got on that plane. I had 4 months of runway left, 5 months. And I later heard that Jim Carrey has a similar story. But I was like, okay, I have to launch by January 1st because otherwise I'm out of money. And ended up launching January 9th, so a few days later, but I put together the whole company in like 4 months. And what I realized is once I pivoted, sort of the rest was history, because then everything was in alignment. Everything came together and worked out. And I was like, oh, entrepreneurship's supposed to be hard, but in like long hours and, having to constantly put fires out and just pushing a rock up a hill to some degree, but it's not supposed to be that it's just like not working no matter what you do. Like if you have, product market fit, or if you have an opportunity, things should start coming together and working. And so it was a different difficulty that I realized. And so if I had understood that and not thought, oh, well, I just need to be a masochist my whole life, and I just need to be, toughing it out my whole life, I would have saved myself a lot of pain and agony. But luckily I worked it out right before I ran out of money and didn't know how I was going to pay rent. But I think that was a big lesson for me too, is just, again, back to the firing faster. Once you know.
And my heart just reaches out to you, Christine, because again, it's that thing of like how we all do that as human beings, but I think especially as women, how we internalize it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's probably me.
Yeah.
I'm just not pushing hard enough, right?
Yeah.
And then it's also like, again, I don't have to read out, like I can just read out 5% of your bio, and we're like, Christina's your default is to push hard. This is not a you thing.
Yeah.
And yet again, that thing of, and actually I want to ask you, so now, and again, we're human beings, constantly evolving, changing, all of that. So I'm not expecting you to have the perfect answer.
Yeah.
But for the Western you're sitting now, how do you start to recognize if something isn't in alignment with you and your values? Whether that's a new project, a new business, whether it's just, everyday decisions. What are some little signs? Is it your body talking? Is it something in your mind?
Yeah.
Do you notice your moods? Like, is your energy draining? Just talk to us.
Yeah. I'll give you a funny metaphor because it's even helped me, because right now I'm on sabbatical. I've only been booking things 10 to 14 days in advance, which is very unnerving because I'm across the world from my family. I've got some family stuff going on, and I'm like, I need this for myself. This is hard when I should be with my family to some degree, but it's for a period of time, and it was a very hard choice to put myself first and say, I need this. This is part of my rest and my boundaries. But then, of course, there's days where I'm like, what am I doing if I don't even know what I'm going to be doing in 2 weeks? Should I be here? Is this worth it? But a funny story is that I went to Monaco a couple weeks ago, and I was traveling with a good friend, and we went to the casino, and she was like my coach, and she was like, Christine, we're going to do roulette, and you're going to tune in to your energy. She's like, right, which table? And because she was coaching me, I was like, this table. She's like, that table? I'm like, that table. And then she's like, okay, what's it going to be? Red or black? And I was like, red. I won $600 on a streak every single time, even like 3 numbers in a row, the exact numbers, because she was sitting there being like, what is your body telling you? And the second that I lost, I was like, I'm getting up and I'm leaving. But everybody was like following me and, following what I was doing at some point, because I was just on a roll for like 20 things. Not that I won every single one, but my point is like, it was a reminder to me of, I knew, I could feel it energetically. And when it wasn't on, I walked away. And just in the last few weeks, it's been helping me even make decisions about where should I go and what people should I spend time with. I think the second that a new person kind of shows me who they are, I believe them now. I mean, we're talking about the last few weeks. So I've been kindly sort of moving away. With people like you, where we have such a connection, I've been leaning in. When I think about where I'm supposed to be going or what I'm supposed to be doing, I tune into my body and meditate and pray. And if it's sort of a negative feeling or block, you know it. And you kind of, I think your intuition whispers. It doesn't scream. So that's when I just say, okay, I'm not being drawn. Like, I have some countries on my bucket list, but right now I'm like, do I go there? And it's like energetically like not calling me. But like London, it was calling me. And look what's happening. I've been meeting people left and right. Energetically, it's been like, kismet. And so I do think there's something really important to, I just heard Oprah speak about this at Cannes Lions a few weeks ago. She said, like, we all know, we just need to quiet down and listen and tune in. And I just think it's a reminder to do that daily, hourly, as much as we can, because it's been really guiding me in the right direction the last few weeks, and obviously for a while now. So yeah.
Oh my God, I love all of it.
Yeah,
I love that story as well.
Yeah.
And I actually want to just like highlight a few things in that experience, because I think it's it's 100%, of course, all down to your incredible work throughout your whole life. And here I mean work on yourself and with yourself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, you know, like, because there's you and you, right?
Yeah.
And then there's also this other thing that you obviously chose to be with your friend and Monica, right?
Yeah.
So you like your friend, your body had already chosen.
Yeah.
It's a yes.
Yes.
It's not I should be with this person,
Yeah.
it's I want to be,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So if we take the word, should is really not a great word for me.
Yeah.
My vocabulary, so we scratch that, we go, what do I want? Well, you wanted to be with her, so you make that happen.
Yeah.
That means you already have a deep sense of trust and a deep sense of there's just a yes, an unspoken yes between the two of you, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And then, like you said, she almost coached me. Well, you also, we can only follow and be led by someone if we are in agreement, even non-verbally, to be followed, right? And we only do that to someone we trust.
Yeah.
So then, as she was saying this thing, she was just holding the space, witnessing you.
Yeah.
But this is the beautiful thing, and I think especially as it was woman to woman.
Yeah.
It was someone that you trusted who was giving. She was giving you her full attention, I'm assuming, right?
Yes.
And just having that moment.
Yeah.
Like, I could just feel your shoulders drop, right? And I think my voice even lowered. Like, having another woman, where so many women are in competition. Whoa.
Yeah.
Have another woman that you feel safe with, God, you got this, right? And I know this was the casino, and of course it's a fun story, it's an amazing story, but this could also have been a story like you could have been, you know, sitting here making your next business plans, and you could have gone, you know, I don't know what her name is, Marie, you could have gone Marie, right? Michelle, okay, what's an M, right? So you could have gone, Michelle, I have these 3 different avenues, these 3 different vendors, you know, writing them down, and her just holding the space for you going, you know what to do. And having, you know, and then, so the beauty, the healing, the encouragement that can happen when we are in relationships with people that we trust, right? So, and then noticing, of course, you were in a space where you allowed yourself to receive that and be guided by her holding the space, that you had invited her into your space, and then acting from that space of your body fully knowing.
Yeah, and it's such a great point. I think that is 100% what gave me the ability to be at my best, I guess, in that moment. And, you know, it's a perfect segue to, you know, why I'm so passionate now about helping women with everything I've learned, because I get so much joy out of helping women and seeing their potential and how much impact they can make in the world. And I've been through so much, you know, hard learnings over 10, 20, 30 years that, you know, it's one of the most rewarding things too, is to see all of that pain not go to waste, to be able to do that. And so, you know, I think that sort of the early days of where I wanted to be, you know, young, a teacher and then a doctor, it was all about helping people. And so I definitely see that next phase in my life being taking everything I've learned and really using that to help people, because to your point, like, I want to be that, you know, cheerleader to other women that, and we don't get it. I literally, and I take accountability for this, I didn't understand how important it was. I thought I was too busy. I didn't know how to do it. But one of my biggest regrets is that I didn't invest from day one of my company into mentorship from others and my brain trust. And so I literally had no one as a solo non-technical founder that was in my corner. And that's not fair. I have a lot of cheerleaders, but I'm saying like mentorship, where I could call them and they could truly, I had a few guy friends every now and then that were very helpful when I really needed some, like, you know, strategic advice with fundraising and things, but to have somebody that I knew was like a mentor that I could call anytime, it makes such a difference. And I would watch like these documentaries on like Uber and WeWork, and I was just like envious of how much support, even in the TV show, they had from even their investors coming to their house and doing working sessions, and the other co-founders. And, you know, that's a big lesson for me, is like, you know, set up your situation from the beginning to be set up for success, and don't make it so freaking hard on yourself. You know, we need support, we need community, we need those women, you know, cheering us on. And so I hope to be that for other women, but I mean, you know, I just think that we need to be better about that, not only for ourselves, but just in general, you know, for other people when we see those opportunities.
100%. And I also think, I mean, it's such a good point. And again, especially for women, because I think, you know, it's so easy, and also I'm also going to go back because I know you're a twin, and if we go back to that moment where you and what's your twin sister called? Diane, where you and Diane, right? You're making this little secret pact of you're going to look after this area, I'm going to look after this area, right? These are the two camps. On one way, you're working together in teamwork, but you're also overviewing, leading different arenas, right? So even though you were born as a double, you kind of very quickly individualized. And then again, as a woman, it's that thing of like, I just think, because I've done the same thing again, right? I came married at 16 by myself. It was me who wanted to go to the Royal Danish Ballet. It was me who, whatever I wanted to do, it was led by me, guided by me. And similar to you, it's been the last thing on my agenda was, could I have someone else to do it with? And I always longed for it and yearned for it. And whenever I would do any kind of training, I would...
But you think it's supposed to be hard.
100%.
You're used to being all on you, and you just don't know any different, and because you've always had to figure it out and solve it.
100%. And I only recently, like 6 months ago, because my fiance was like, will you please hire someone to work with you? And I was like, oh, but I would like a partner, not someone working for me, all of it. Anyway, found this amazing woman, and so we get online, and so Sheila from the Philippines, she's like, oh, I can do this and that, and I'm like, actually, I just want the emotional support. I would just really love. I mean, I can highlight what I should be doing. I know I'm already doing it. I need another human heartbeat.
Yes, I know.
Right?
Yeah.
So this thing, right?
Yeah. And why do we, it's just, maybe just certain people's certain upbringings or backgrounds. It's like, we need somebody to nudge us, to remind us that it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're like, oh, I can do this on my own. I don't need, or sometimes we don't even think about it. We don't even know because we're just used to doing everything on our own and figuring it out. But the reminder or the nudge, but also just maybe this conversation inspiring people that it's a non-negotiable, and just you can choose ease, you can choose peace, you can choose happiness, you can choose. And that's what allows you to have it all. You can be very successful, and it's not a failure to have support, and it's not a failure to be able to work only 9 to 5. And now that's all I hope for, is that I can have enough support in the future, and I actually don't want to do anything if I can't have the right team support, because it's just so exhausting otherwise. And it's a choice.
Of course, and it's really fun having someone else.
Yes.
Couldn't this be a nice, fun experience, right?
Yes.
And
Why does it doesn't have to be hard and miserable.
Right, exactly. So it's like rewriting, flipping that old narrative. And again, exactly, we're born into different systems, different belief systems, all of it. But it's really similar. Like, my story was similar. Like, I had a mom who's, fiercely independent, raised 2 children by herself. My great-grandmother sailed across the ocean 7 weeks to Australia with her then husband, then decided, oh, this is not for me, sailed back with the 2 kids back to Denmark, became this very successful businesswoman, whatever. So in my head, I always just saw it was the woman and she was by herself. So there was this subconscious belief that if I wasn't by myself, and then mixed together with the Royal Danish Ballet, we were there for 16, 18 hours every day, and we were constantly at it, and again, physically in pain, all of that. So I had this idea that if I wasn't exhausted at all times, I wasn't doing enough, right?
100%.
I can so relate.
Or it wasn't enough, or I was a slacker, or
oh, right.
Whatever. Yeah. Crazy.
Oh my God, right?
Yeah.
I can really, 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 really relate. And then again, and of course, this also comes, thankfully, it comes at a certain point in your life, if you're lucky enough to spend enough time with oneself to decide there's got to be a kinder way, there's got to be a more fun way, there's got to be a way where I actually love coming home to myself.
I know.
And even, but again, it's not until we look back that all the dots connect, right?
Exactly.
So again, I couldn't have reached this conclusion, which is only, again, the tip of the iceberg, right?
Yeah.
So many more layers, right? You wouldn't have reached it either, and you and I wouldn't have met. Have we not reached those conclusions that brings us to the here and now, right?
To the sun of all things, which is my self-care.
And mine too, right?
Yeah, that I've adopted, because, I've finally prioritized my health,
100%.
So, yeah.
So, can I ask you, because little side note, on the day of this recording, it's a new moon in Cancer, which is all about our inner home and what we want to nurture. So, Christine, What are you nurturing at the moment?
Ooh, that's a big one. I have gone through extreme shedding over the last year or two. Relationship, stepping down from my company, packing up my home a month ago, having some family health stuff, even close friendships. And so I'm, in my 40s, like, oh my gosh, this is, I know it's happening for me. I'm excited and trust the process of what's next, but I'm still going through it and in it. And so I've been really, it's been such a wild ride on my over the last few weeks on my first part of my sabbatical in Europe, because, again, I'm like trying to enjoy myself and be present, but I've also just been going through this roller coaster of emotion and kind of figuring out how to let go what's not for me and how to be present and open for what's next. And so I think I've been nurturing, it's been forcing me to really, support my inner self and inner voice and emotions and just be there for myself right now and take it slow, and kind of tune in and listen more to my body of what feels good, what's going to bring me joy. I was trying to do work a few hours yesterday and then I got stressed and I'm like, why am I stressed? I'm on sabbatical. I'm going to get up and I'm going to go do something I want to do. That I should be joyful. I should be happy right now. And so I think what I'm nurturing right now is just trying to be really present and really in tune with what I need right now to take care of myself.
I love that. Yeah. And that thing of like, what would feel good right now? Mm-hmm. I love that.
Maybe I want a cookie. Okay, if I want a cookie, I'm going to go get a cookie. I want to go to the art museum. I'm going to stop what I'm doing, shut my laptop, and I'm going to go to the art museum. So, and it's kind of like you almost get an excitement, and then you're like, wait, should I feel guilty? No, this is what life's about. I'm not supposed to be stressed all the time, This is what healing and coming out of burnout is supposed to be, So, we're just day to day. Life should be like this,
right? And like, this is, there's such a good saying, and I hope you love this.
Okay.
There are no limits to how good you are allowed to feel. There are no limits to how good you are allowed to feel. Yeah. And like, right? And that thing of, so it's practical actions throughout your day.
Yes.
And that's my thing as well. It's like, we're not leaving it out there. Happiness is not like in 2 months or 6 months, or if this thing happens, or if that thing doesn't happen. Happiness or peace, we can just call it peace, state of ease. It's available anytime, any place, anywhere, but we have to grab it.
And just looking for the joy in the moment. Like, wow, I love tea. This is an amazing cup of tea. I am so happy right now. I'm just sitting here with my book and my cup of tea and just being really present and taking in those small moments, because those are actually things that when you look back, you're most joyful of, is like those little, micro happiness moments,
Right, and that's also what our lives are made from.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Christine, I know I have a feeling we're running low on time, so we're running low on time but high on life. I am going to ask you, and you've already given us so many incredible nudges of wisdom through your lived experience. Thank you. Thank you so much for being the woman that the third team was like, sorry mama, I've got a higher calling and it's calling me. I want to ask you, if as you look back over your life, all the way from the beginning, from you and your Diane, deciding that you were going to look after different areas of your life, not crossing the lines, this is mine, this is yours, we're going to nurture these things, and then all the way up through everything that you decided to say yes to, in that bathroom when you decided to say no to medical school, like all those many moments. If you had just one or two soul messages for humanity, what would they be?
I think, again, with my cheesy sayings, but my big one right now is rejection is protection. because, and it's funny how many times I have to say that to myself recently because I've had so much shedding, but just every moment reminding myself, because I would just get so hurt because I'm such a giver. So when people wouldn't give me things back, I would take it really personally, and it would really affect me, and I'd question it, and I'd be hard on myself, which is not what I should be doing. It's the opposite right now. I should be self-loving and nurturing, but just constantly reminding yourself that like everything that rejects you is happening for you, and the sooner you can just immediately take that as a gift and say thank you and move forward. And I think it just comes back to, you know, what we've been talking about this whole time, which is just being quiet enough and paying attention enough and making it a daily, hourly, weekly practice to really ask yourself, what do I need to hear? What do I need to know? And energetically believe it, because it's gonna whisper, it's not gonna shout. So if you question I just had this thought pop in my head, and maybe that's nothing. No, it's something. You need to listen to it. So yeah, I'd say those are my big things right now.
I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
And I also want to share, and this is what thank you so much for your vulnerability, your sensitivity, as well as your creativity, for all of it. Because I think what's so gorgeous as well is that you are an entrepreneur, you know, you were born one. Actually, as we said in the sauna, I said it, I was like, you're a starter. So you will always be a starter. It doesn't matter really what happens in the outer world, you will start a thing. That's what you're here to, right? And actually it's really funny because that's the mother energy. You're giving birth to something. You're always there, you're initiating, you're taking that action. But what's beautiful about today's conversation, which I think is, I mean, you know it, but against the listeners out there, even if you're sitting there going, I'm not really an entrepreneur, I wouldn't call myself an entrepreneur. Everyone can learn from not just starting something, but perhaps, most importantly, knowing when to end something. And the wisdom that you've shared with us today, like, you know, again, we look at your bio, we listen to your life. You could have stayed in any of those 500 different amazing professions and on paper had this beautiful life, right? Your life is, for me, even more magnificent and continues to grow because you continue to evolve as you're flowing with what you're feeling, you know, and you're not stuck in this rigid idea of like, well, I built this thing, so now I must continue, you know. Even you're allowed to let it go, even if what you're sitting in right now was once your greatest dream.
And even, to exactly your point, it's okay. I heard a quote in The Bear, the TV show, and it made me cry. He went to the top cooking school, it's a TV show, but in the world, and was obsessed with cooking and created this like almost Michelin star restaurant for 10 years. And then he was just done. And his sister called him and was like, you were so obsessed, and it's okay if you no longer are into it and want to do this anymore. You had that love, it was for a period of time, and now it's okay. And it's okay to move on. And so I just think like, that gave me the permission to be like, because I was holding on like, but this is my thing. This is what I said when I was 13 I was supposed to do the rest of my life. My body was telling me otherwise, and it was time to let go. And we're still doing amazing things. We have a new CEO. We're going to still help change the world. And maybe that was my chapter, to be part of that story. And beyond that, I'm not, in control anymore. It's bigger than me. But knowing when to listen to the fact that even when you think something's for you for a while, it doesn't mean it has to be forever. It also can be a chapter. So, yeah.
That is so powerful. I'm not even going to add to that. I'm just going to say, Christine, thank you so much. Kindly share with listeners out there, where can people find you, Christine? Where can they connect with you, learn more about you? What's a good place?
You can reach out. I have a public Facebook and Instagram page. It's at Christine Moseley, MOSELEYFH, at the end, and on LinkedIn, Christine Moseley, and reach out.
Amazing. I'll put it all in the show notes. But Christine, such a pleasure. Thank you so much. Yay! Oh my God.
Thank you.
Oh my God. Thank you so much. Amazing.